So Mike D'Antoni is making it official. He says James Harden is the best offensive player he's ever seen. Fellas, do you even think he's the best offensive player in the league right now? Stephen A.
Well, first of all, right now, I'm not going to say that. I mean, when I look at LeBron James and the complete package that he is, he comes to mind. But I would give Harden the edge over a lot of guys. I wouldn't give him the edge over Kevin Durant. And all time, I certainly wouldn't give him the edge over Kobe or MJ. And I'm going to emphasize Kobe and MJ for a particular reason. I think both were capable of averaging 30 inside or out with their back to the basket, mid-range game, whatever the case may be. James Harden had a better long-range game than those guys. I think that isolation-wise, he's absolutely sensational. You hang on his left, it could be problematic for him because even though he can use his right, he's not as ambidextrous as you would like him to be. It's just that, as a southpaw, Max can speak about this from a boxing analogy. It's hard when you're going up against a southpaw because it's unfamiliar territory to you, and James Harden is that guy. But I certainly wouldn't put that. I wouldn't put him as number one. I'd put Kevin Durant above him. I would kind of put him above LeBron James from the standpoint of his three-point shot and his reliability at the free throw line. LeBron James' three-point shot and his reliability at the free throw line are suspect to me compared to James Harden. But I wouldn't say that about Kevin Durant, and that's why I wouldn't put him above Kevin Durant.
Ridiculous to call him the best offensive player of all time. He's Mike D'Antoni's guy. He's his muse. He runs the system, Mike D'Antoni's system beautifully. And James Harden is a great offensive player. I don't want to make that unclear. James Harden is a great offensive player. But you have to adjust offense for the league in which it exists and for the system that you're running. James Harden, in a three-point happy league, in a high-scoring, high-possession league, on a team that you would expect to have the highest-flying, most three-pointer shot type offense, is putting up great numbers, of course. Is he a better offensive player than Michael Jordan? No. Than Wilt Chamberlain or Kareem Abdul-Jabbar? No. Than Shaquille O'Neal or Kobe Bryant in the leagues in which they existed? No. Than LeBron James today? No. Than Kevin Durant right now? Nope. If you put any of those guys on a Mike D'Antoni team, especially as the highest usage player on a Mike D'Antoni team, they would put up absurd, cartoonish numbers. I mean, they do anyway. But Harden is a great offensive player playing for a great offensive coach in a great offensive league, and my hat's off to him. You don't need to get into hyperbole to describe how great James Harden is, but I believe that's what Mike D'Antoni did.
Let's throw out the historical comparisons. I think we can all agree that's a little much. But as to who's the best offensive player in the NBA right now, let me just ask you this. Max, you're going to be the physics guy more than I could ever hope to be, but you're familiar with the idea of terminal velocity, right? You drop a brick or you drop a feather from a certain height, and they both reach the same speed at some point. Yes. James Harden is unstoppable, at least in the regular season. I don't know how you stop James Harden. I don't know how you stop Kevin Durant. Honestly, I don't know how you stop LeBron James either one-on-one. All of them can either shoot or get to the basket from any point on the floor at any moment. But the problem with Harden, I'm going to ask both of you guys is I think at some point we hold last year's playoffs against him. Because while he's unstoppable in the regular season, those other two have been unstoppable in the playoffs. And isn't that playing on us in the back of our minds?
Not for me. I look at James Harden, and I would say to you, in today's NBA system, with no interior defense, I guess you could say LeBron because LeBron could get to the hole at will. But again, his perimeter shot is not that of James Harden, and he is not as efficient from the free throw line as James Harden. So if you said to me, who would I want? Just for the sole purpose of offense, not the all-around game, the basketball savant, the mind, the passing ability, etc. I'm talking strictly as an offensive scorer. I would take James Harden over LeBron James because I think he's more reliable as a shooter
over KD?
And as a free throw shooter.
How about KD?
Not KD, no.
But also, listen, he's a more reliable free throw shooter. He's barely a better shooter than LeBron and not as good a shooter as KD. And by the way, when we say unstoppable, we need to think about what that really means. It means James Harden can seem to always get a high percentage shot and hit it at a good clip. It means James Harden can finish in the paint. It means James Harden can find open teammates. but it doesn't mean that James Harden can do any or all of those things better than other guys. In other words, because a guy can do all those things very well and we call him unstoppable, doesn't mean there's terminal velocity simply because we can say that about him, Will. For example, James Harden doesn't shoot nearly as well as Steph Curry. Steph Curry's a better shooter. James Harden doesn't have the handles Steph Curry has. James Harden cannot do all those things he does against an elite defense keying on him the way LeBron James can. So while it's kind of like what I said the other day when we put Tiger Woods #1 on these athletes lists. We flatten what it means to be an athlete. We create a common denominator. Call golf a sport, call Tiger Woods an athlete, now say he's the greatest athlete. Right? We're kind of doing the same thing there. We're flattening distinctions here. James Harden can do all these things, therefore he's as good as you can be. Nope. Because you can do each individual thing he does better, and some people do several of those very important things better than him and are therefore better offensive players.
Real quick, we're out of time. Stephen A., did you have it? So you had it KD, Harden, then LeBron. Is that what you had, Stephen A.?
Yes,
And Max, you have LeBron?
Just strictly as an offensive, just strictly as a scorer, yes.
Right. And Max, you had LeBron, what?
Yeah, I'm not.
Then KD. How far down was
I'm
James
not talking
Harden?
about score. I mean, offensive player. I have LeBron 1 and KD 2 as offensive players.